Hey, okay, so if you have a question, hopefully y'all can hear me. Um, Raise your hand so I can pull you up on stage. If not, you all know the room will close at 9:05. Hello, Jessica, Megan, Kelly, Marsha, Amber.
Hey,
Hello, Jessica.
how are you?
I am well, and yourself?
I am doing good. So, I didn't want you to close the room. So, I'm trying to. It's almost like you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll just tell you where I'm at. So, I'm starting my private practice and I'm starting out with seeing kids from birth to like 4 or 5 years old. So, that early intervention population.
Mm-hmm.
I recently have became credentialed with Medicaid and all the MCOs.
Mm-hmm.
I am still trying to understand because I'm doing all of this by trial and error. I haven't started seeing any kids yet. But where my fear come in at is not understanding the okay, I'll give you an example. Like for one of the MCOs, they say they pay 80% of, I guess, the fee schedule from Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
Bryson, be quiet. And so I'm assuming if that per unit rate is like $25 per unit, and I'm seeing a child for an hour, which is 4 units. So if that come up to be like $94, does that insurance pay 90%, I mean 80% of that $94?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, standardly what it is. So, whatever the traditional rate is, or what the fee for service rate is for your traditional straight Medicaid, it would
Mm-hmm.
be 80% of that.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
And another thing, would you recommend once I start seeing, because I was going to start very, even if it was like 2 or 3 people just to understand the whole billing process of, because I haven't got that far of knowing. I understand, like, because I worked for a home health company before starting, and I intentionally worked for them after I graduated so I can understand and see, like, okay, what insurances they take or what, kind of the process and systems.
Mhm.
So I understand, like, having to get authorization first. But it kind of a blank comes in for me after that part. Like once I get the authorization, once I do the evaluation and get the script, d- I don't know what to do next. Like I don't know if do I go back to the insurance company or do I go back to them after the evaluation has been written up? It's kind of that's where it kind of stops for me. I don't know the next step.
Sure. So typically, you would need to understand the policy of that insurance company. So in general, for example, our Medicaids here, we're free to evaluate whomever, in general. So unless it's like AAC, and sometimes that's a little iffy, but in general, you can evaluate a speech, feeding, all of that. But you would want to confirm that with each insurance company that you're working with, and then what their policy is going forward when it comes to authorizations and visits. Here we had an insurance company that would allow us to get 8 visits. We can bill 8 visits without having to do an authorization at all, and we can do that every month. We can bill at just 8 visits. But with the
Mm-hmm.
other insurance companies, we have to get authorizations for all of the visits before a therapeutic session can occur, and they need the evaluation to make that determination if they're going to give us the visits.
Oh, okay, okay. So
Mhm.
I would have after I would send the evaluation to the insurance company.
Yeah, so whatever authorization process that they have, you will figure that out as well because everyone is different.
Okay.
And you would just submit the evaluation, the script, and usually it's the signed plan of care
Mm-hmm.
to the insurance company, and then they will justify or tell you whether or not you're going to get those visits you're asking for.
Okay, okay. And would you also recommending once that process is finished and I'm able to start treating kids, would you recommend billing like the same day that the treatment is done? Or do you think, or would you recommend like waiting till like the at the end of the month and then
Oh no,
billing?
do not wait till the end of the month. It really depends on me. I don't go more than a week without billing, so I'll maybe wait till the end of the week and submit my billing.
Hmm.
But for me, it's best practice to submit my billing daily.
Okay. And do you have an EMR system that you can submit through?
Yes, I use Fusion.
Fusion. Okay, I was looking at Fusion.
Hmm.
Have you used another one and that you felt like just probably wasn't the best? Because right now, like when I was working for the other company, I use Clinic Source. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Oh yes, Clinic Source is like from 1990s.
Okay. That's the only thing I have, any type of experience is I'm like, should I just go with this? Because I know, but if there's something better, I would definitely want to do that.
Yeah, Clinic Source, they need to update their interface. And the thing about Clinic Source too is that they have it, from what I remember, because you don't hear much about Clinic Source these days, but they have like two accounts that you would have to get, like a billing account and then a provider like submitting your notes kind of account.
Hmm.
And that just seems really cumbersome. So the what I actually started out with, like the very very first EMR that I had, was something called Therapy Notes, and the only
Hmm.
reason I left them at the time is because they didn't have enough technology when it comes to the ERAs coming in. So they weren't uh, compatible with a number of insurance companies. And I would have to do those ERAs manually, and that was a time suck. But I'm sure they've probably upgraded by now. So that's something to consider. They were like $60 a month.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but right now, yeah, Fusion is to me is the best. It's expensive. It really is expensive. But when it comes to knocking out everything that needs to be done, the only thing that I wish Fusion had that other companies have is a better um what do you call this thing, the forms, their intake process. I just wish it was better than what it
Oh,
is.
okay.
uh, so yeah, that's that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Kenzie,
Hello.
hey, you voted, so
Um,
here you are.
yep. It came at the perfect time because I had a question pop up today.
Perfect.
So I'm in network with Wellmark, Blue Cross Blue Shield. They're the main ones that I kind of have this question about, but I guess it could apply to like Medicaids or Tricare and stuff. So I've been told in the past, or like I always see on groups, and I've done it when I was an independent contractor, that you can provide services in home and people will code it as office because they're quote unquote traveling office.
Hmm.
Like that's their office is traveling. But now I have my own office. And then, like today, I was calling a client's insurance and asked if they had coverage for, like, if I coded it as home. And they said that they did, which is the first time that I've actually gotten, like, a response like that before. Normally they get so confused and think I'm like asking about a completely different thing, like home health or something. So I
Mhm.
guess I'm just confused. Like, can I code home as office if I'm traveling to them as the office? Do I need to code it as home? I don't know, like, if I can bill that way or not.
I feel like in general, what you said before, where people are using office when they're traveling and because that's their actual office, that has been told to me by people from insurance companies themselves. But I feel like that's a question that I would make unique to each insurance company. Additionally, there's now a new code where it's a mobile office. I believe that it is. I believe it's 15. I
Oh,
would
okay.
look to that as well. But I think it's that question is unique to each insurance company. And I would ask each one and maybe even ask them an email to see what their response is. Because what I wouldn't want to happen is if you're ever audited, they'll come back and say, well, that specific code that you use right there actually doesn't apply and we're taking everything back. So now you want to have
Mhm.
in writing that they said it was okay.
Okay. Um, who would I how do I get contacts like that? I feel like I have no contacts with any insurance companies, or like I had one and then she like left. And so like the only contacts I really ever have are like I've contacted like the provider credentialing email and then just the people that I get on the phone with customer service.
So that person that left has a boss. I What you can typically do is call the provider relations department and you can ask them for your specific rep for your locale, and they're supposed to be able to provide that information to you.
Okay. So
Hmm.
ask each insurance company whether they would allow that or not.
Yes. How was that?
Okay. What?
I said, how was that classified? That's what I would want to ask them.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank
Mhm.
you.
You're welcome.
So I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a brick and mortar?
I do.
What would be your determining factor to move forward with doing that? Like, I was trying to figure because right now I'm just starting off with like home health and that early intervention, but eventually I would want to grow. There's no competition in the area where I'm at, so there's no other like brick and mortar speech pathology, speech therapy facility or anything like that. So, what would be the point where okay, it's time to move forward? Because I didn't know if that's something where like um of course like I would need to market, but I also know like with insurance, like when I was going through that process, they asked, do I have a physical location? Because referrals would come in. So what would you get the brick and mortar first, or would you build up like a wait list first before you, like, what was that determining factor for you that was like, okay, it's time to, get a brick and mortar?
So, great question. I started with EI, and when it got to the point, literally, it's based on income. For me, it was based on income. So it wasn't a wait list because that may or may not really pan out. But it's the income that I'm currently receiving and the average of that and my daily, what those daily figures look like. So I started out with driving and going to the locations of my clients. And then the next step was I got an actual one room office. And then I started renting, and all of that is based on specific figures of me being able to cover whatever that rent is within 1 or 2 days of me working. And then I shared a space with another, like they were a tutor. They were upstairs and I was downstairs. They owned the office. And then I bought my own office. And again, that's all based on me being able to pay that mortgage with 1 or 2 days worth of work.
So did you find it okay, like right now, a lot of my referrals are coming from early interventionists,
Hmm.
and they're expecting for or wanting or based on the needs of the family for me to go to their home. Was it a difficult transition for you to get these kids that's from early intervention that you were seeing at their homes to now coming to you to that location?
I will say that A lot of my families that were I just allowed them to phase out. So they didn't necessarily travel with me to my office, but it was building my name and that word of mouth and pediatricians hearing about me and starting making referrals that was able to allow me to kind of build up my caseload where they would eventually, those people traveled with me to my office because they knew that that was coming.
Oh, okay. So even with this population, it doesn't necessarily have to be in their home.
With EI,
Mhm.
your state determines that. So
Okay.
but it wasn't the like the referrals that I was getting from pediatricians because now my name is being put out there, right? Because I'm having to do these evaluations and get these plan of cares for the clients that I was currently seeing through EI. So that created a volume of clients outside of EI.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome. Awesome sauce. So, checking the chat, Tara. If you have a contract with insurance, sorry, the paint lesser 80% of allowable charges or 55% of the bill charges. Do you bill more than the allowable so you get? Now, Tara, you are in the course. You know how we set up our rates and how we set up the billing. So, refer back to the course because this is a public room. So I wouldn't be answering these kinds of detailed questions from the course in this room, but it's in the course. You know it's there. Okay. All right. So we have Ebony, Anna, Jenny, Kennedy, Kayla, Destiny, Tara. Nobody else has any questions?
What is a ballpark figure of subleasing a space, like in another doctor's office? I know that varies like state to state, city to city, but do you have like a ballpark of that?
I don't necessarily have a ballpark because I can tell you what I paid when I was renting space. So they gave me the two offices downstairs and I paid like 700 or 750 or something like that.
Oh,
And I
okay.
still had to pay like part of the utilities or something. And eventually I got smart and my mortgage was that amount. So I got a whole office space for that same amount.
Okay.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Ooh, 1K. Ooh, ooh. Yeah. That's the cost in LA. It sounds about right. Cheese and breeze. All right, cool beans. No more questions. We're all good. For 100 square feet, what are these people smoking? Uh-uh. Yeah, no. Yeah, yeah. That's a lot.
Jessica, I'll pop on and say right now I'm renting a room from an ABA clinic, like just one little room, and I worked out like a daily rate with them. So I'm paying $100 a day, and I just have 1 day a week right now. So I'd renegotiate that if I moved it up. But you can get creative and find places where you can just rent a room from them. I'd say if you're wanting to start small, that's a good place to start.
Thank you.
Great advice. Yeah, my salon suite like office. I think I've shared a picture of that on IG. Um that rent was, it had a bathroom and then it had like this additional like back area, and then there was the office space, and that was 450 for the month, and it included internet. So it was actually pretty nice. I really want to. I'm considering in the long term creating something like that specific for therapists. So like there's salon suites, but there'll be therapy suites for rehab therapists. So something I'm considering.
So with your brick and mortar now, did you purchase that, like do a mortgage and everything up under your business
Hmm.
for that?
Yeah. So you
Okay,
can't, like, if someone were to search it, they wouldn't find it under Anisha. They'll find it under my therapy name or my therapist.
gotcha.
But I shouldn't have done that. I wish I would have been, someone would have told me before. If I were to recommend anyone making such a purchase, create a completely separate LLC for the
So
building.
like a holding
So
company?
essentially, yeah.
Okay.
Hmm. So I'm trying to bring Kennedy up. I don't know if there is something that she has to do on her side. Oh yeah, you're right, Destiny. Corporate real estate is definitely doing some funny things. So you could possibly get a deal if you were to do some cold calling.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, perfect. Hi.
Hey,
So I am wondering if I were to go to another state and start services there, do my insurance contracts travel with me?
it depends. If it's a national brand, it might. But for example, Cigna, when I was considering them, there were a limited number of states that I can actually move to with that same contract. So you would have to call them and figure out what is allowed.
Gotcha.
Otherwise,
Okay,
I had to get a completely new contract for the state that wasn't associated with that specific contract.
that makes
Rename.
sense.
Yeah.
Is that typically easier to do? Like if you're already contracted with one state, even if they do have a separate branch?
No idea because I've never had to do it. Um,
Okay.
but I can imagine that you may have to renegotiate your rates because
Mm-hmm.
it's a different location, different expenses. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
When hiring new therapists, do you have like a do not compete in your contract?
I don't have any therapists. But when I did have a therapist working for me, um, did I have a do not? I don't think I bothered with it because it can't hold up. It's yeah. To really
Okay.
Yeah, to really enforce it, you're gonna spend some money. And don't nobody got time for that.
And see, that's kind of like my holdup now because I left my company not too long ago, and I feel like that do not compete clause in her contract was basically saying like I can't work for another competing company
Hmm.
within the region that I work for her company, even though her company is based out of like the lower state of from where I'm at. And so I feel like I can't start mine or start seeing kids in the early intervention until 6 months out because that's how long it says in the contract, 6 months after I have left her company.
That you can't work for another company?
Another competing home health agency.
That don't even sound right.
Yeah, and I've had a couple of people look at the same thing. It was like, no, that's not gonna hold up. So it's almost like I'm scared to do anything.
Uh, is she truly home health?
What do you mean?
So home health. You can serve kids at home. That's not
Hmm.
necessarily home health. And then there's home health where you're actually considered, like, there's a category for home health. You have to do whatever special certifications, et cetera, to be home health, because those people cannot leave the home and they are required to get the services in their home. So is it a home health company
I
or
don't know. No,
oh,
not at all.
okay.
Yeah, no.
Uh to me that's extremely limiting that you're going to tell me that I can't work for someone else. Like if this is the realm of work that I enjoy doing, and you're going to say that I can't actually, if I don't like your company anymore, I can't work for another 6 months with somebody else, that sounds crazy.
I know. Like even like I'm looking at it now, and it says like during the term of this agreement and for 6 months thereafter, contractor agrees that it may work with other speech therapy clients in other settings such as like nursing home or schools, but may not work with another pediatric home health based practice, which would be in direct competition with the company in the territory in which it last rendered services on behalf of the company.
I will look up non-compete clauses plus your state and see what's said about it.
Okay, I will do that.
Hmm.
I thought that you couldn't enforce a non compete with a contractor. That's like telling your plumber that they can't work on the house next door, right?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, yeah. I don't think that's gonna hold up. It's not a thing. Yeah, that would be illegal in Cali. Cali is like the place. I'm shutting everything down. Yeah. All right, cool beans. We are all good. No more questions. I see Carla just joined. If you have a question, raise your hand. Otherwise, we're going to close the room. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All hearts and minds are cleared. Thanks for joining, guys. Hopefully, this was helpful. All right, good night.